Does the metaphor of a metabolism help you in your research?
Because we are now slowly, as I said, we are moving from an engineering science. The trajectory is going to natural sciences as a researcher to look at, and we see that many of these natural resource systems, landscape systems, are living entities, and they are having lots of feedbacks, and you can call it as their activity can be high, or their activity could be lower. You can call them as a metabolic activity. So in that sense, we were looking at how the organs of a city comprises of many organs, maybe different districts and different systems, different topographic. How does these systems perform in a metabolic way? Energy, water, transport, all of these are critical resources to drive a system. So in that sense, that was attracted to us to see how we are looking at water functioning in the living space of a city.
Because water is essential.
I don't want to interrupt, but what is the sound all about?
I know, this is coming from the fellow which is giving the power.
Okay.
When we don't have a power, there is a battery, and that fellow is saying, "I am now working."
So you hear it all day?
No, when the power is on, this is an off power. Power is switched off due to some catastrophe somewhere. So this is a backup power, and it is making this sound.
Which is also metabolism or critical or whatever.
So if you don't want, we close it, then the sound will be off.
Kenny has to decide.
No, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Water, of course, is a crucial element in most of organic, or in all organic metabolisms. But how would you describe the function of your interest in water cycles, maybe in a metabolistic way? How would you describe function of water, your perspective on water?
See, the water functions in a landscape or in a hydrological system. This is a hydrological system. In the ways of, there are many pathways for water. It's just not one way. So I have the rainwater which falls from the clouds. The atmospheric water is going at a very high, fast rate. If you see, the cloud is moving very fast, a few kilometers per hour. The water is moving away from the system, flushing out in the system. When it rains on the ground, it is moving at some speed. There is a resistance created by the ground for its movement. The idea is to conserve the water for a while, stay on. There are ditches, there are ponds, etc., which are conserving the water for other systems to use it, because some are not fast able to grab the water. So you have, then some water enters into a groundwater where it is moving at a much slower rate. So the idea is that for different functioning, the groundwater is moving at a slower rate because it has to dissolve minerals, which requires a little time. And so the dissolved minerals are flowing with the water and finally coming out into the stream system. From stream system, they are going to the oceanic system. In the surface of the water, they are staying because vegetation has to capture the water. In the atmosphere, I want quickly the water to go to one city to another, so it's moving. So the resistances of ecosystem are naturally created for its movement. So the water is, in the globe, is circulated in 3-4 systems. Like I have a ring road, I have a highway and a slower road, etc. So the water is moving in various pathways in the system and for different functionings of the system. So what is interesting is that human is increasing the speed sometime of this water. For example, I can make in an urban city, I pump the water, bring water, pour it, etc. So I am creating the cycle to speed up in some places. In some places, I may want to stop the water, I don't allow it to move, I may slow down its process. So human will come in a natural system to change its residence time, if I want to call it, and modify the residence time, which will have repercussions both positive and negative.
This is a very interesting or inspiring way of thinking of water. I never did that. So considering water as an actant in the environmental system, and it is in different states or modes, and so it transfers from one mode to another and to another. So these are all critical zones in themselves, critical transformation zones in
Absolutely.
a way. And what I think is very inspiring is now that the water in the different mode has its specific temporal structure,
Absolutely.
speed, rhythm. Yes.
Right.
So to think it with these terms, temporal structure, rhythm, and so on, does this help to for your thinking to understand the flow of water, the critical transformation points like evaporating or sinking through the groundwater?
So absolutely, that's what I was saying. So the water cycle is somewhere here. For the water cycle to move around, there is a fundamental fellow which is driving the water cycle. That's called the energy cycle. If I didn't have the energy, water won't move. So I will have evaporation of the water, and the water is moving in the atmosphere. All this is happening because of the energy from the sun. That's called the energy cycle. So the energy is driving the water to evaporate. Unless I give enough energy, the water cannot be evaporated into water vapor. So the energy is the driver for the water. So if I have the water slowed down, for example, if I have the energy, I can play around with water evaporation to cool the place a bit. Right? So evaporation causes the cooling of the place. If I didn't have the water, let's say it vanished very quickly, and I have the energy coming in from the sun, I may have a high temperature. So we see that during a drought, my atmospheric temperatures are higher, air temperatures are higher, people are feeling hot, etc. So it's all because there is an energy cycle which is not satisfied because there is a water cycle in the system. Or the third cycle, which is subsequent to water, is the material cycle. Water transports all the materials. So erosion, mineral dissolution, and so on. And it is making to move it from one location to another, which is being utilized. For example, my nutrients which I apply on the top of the surface of the land, the water is transporting the nutrient, could be a phosphorus or could be a nitrogen. For example, phosphorus by itself can't move. When it dissolves in water, along with similarly nitrogen goes to the root, and the root is picking up this. So very similar to a human system where the nutrients are transported. So the water is a carrier of these minerals, materials, which we are applying for functioning of the system. So in that sense, there is a material cycle which is getting activated due to the water cycle.
And the term critical now, where does it occur, and how does it help you understand these systems or subsystems?
So critical is essentially in the terminology of an earth system science, we are calling